Dr. Gregory Buford. I'll be the host today, speaking to my good friend Eziah Syed, the CEO and founder of Men Nutrition, and we're going to be talking about all things nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, good friend, Eziah.
So I'll give you a
There
little
we go.
Dr. Buford, how are you?
Gotta love this. You run a major company, but you can't figure out IG. Like
I was in the waiting room, but thank you for hosting me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So, to all you guys that have joined us, you and I, Isaiah, have worked together for a few years. Tell everyone. We're going to delve into a lot of topics, but tell us a little bit about how you got started on this journey. I think it's actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think it started, germinating a number of years ago, actually, with my mother, who had breast cancer, a fairly, difficult recovery, had a full mastectomy in her breast to remove the tumor. And then my brother, who's a physical therapist based here in New York City, had a pretty serious fall from a large waterfall in upstate New York. And he had roughly 8 surgeries to repair his body. And then I, being sort of an avid runner, just really pounding the pavement, and got a stress fracture in my left foot and proceeded to be in a cast for roughly ended up being 10, 11 weeks. Now, typically, stress fracture heals in a shorter period of time. You'll usually be in a boot for 4 to 6 weeks. In this case, it was 10 weeks. And I was frustrated, went back to my doctor and asked, the question I think that most people think of, which is there something more that I should have been doing to support the healing process?
Right.
And I got what I felt was a sort of an unsatisfactory response, which is no, not really. Healing takes its course for every person. There's not a whole lot you can do. And I know you're smiling because you've written a whole book on this topic. Is that when I went back home and started to research, I just had this intuition that maybe I was nutritionally compromised during that whole process, and that slowed down healing. And I started to go deep into that topic to really research the relationship between nutrition and healing, and that was kind of the genesis of Mend. We really have gone deep into that topic to develop an evidence-based portfolio that really helps support the healing process, and we can go into some of the science and why that's the case.
I want to go back. You made a comment that really resonated with me. You're an avid runner. Obviously you're a young guy. You don't smoke. You obviously you take care of yourself. But the comment you made was maybe I was not well nourished. It's interesting. I mean, I'll talk a little bit about my background for anybody who doesn't know. As you mentioned, Isaiah, I wrote a book called Eat, Drink, Heal: The Art and Science of Surgical Nutrition. I also completed a fellowship in anti-aging medicine, which included nutrition. And I was born and raised in an area in the West Coast, in the Pacific Northwest, where nutrition was, we were doing the farm to table just because we were a bunch of dumb hippies, and it was before it was kind of cool. But we're like, you don't put a bunch of junk in your food, it's probably better for you. But back to your comment, though, I think what the comment you made is very, very powerful, and it resonates with me because a lot of people have told me, well, why are you on this nutrition kick? You're working with cosmetic patients, and they're all healthy, and they're not dying or anything like that. But the thing is, as you just said, we may think that we're medically replete, and we may not be. We may not be in as good health. And if there's something that we can be doing to help our healing, just as you asked, and I can't tell you how many patients have told me, I've gone to other physicians, and I've said, or I've asked them, what can I do to actually help heal better? And they've said, well, it's a matter of good surgeon, it's a little bit of luck and a little bit of this. But very, very few people have actually said, well, it's actually garbage in, garbage out. If you're eating well and you're providing the building blocks for proper nutrition, the analogy I use with them is it's like a race car. You'd never think about taking a race car on the track, or even your own standard car, and not putting in good quality gasoline, changing the oil, keeping everything up. But we do that to our bodies every day. So,
yeah, and there's a couple things there, I think. One is even for the healthy person that's conscientious about what they're taking in, which I am and was, the body's demands increase when you're under trauma. Even a small trauma like my stress fracture raises the body's metabolic demands by as much as 25%. A more serious trauma like a surgery increases it quite significantly. So it's not about whether or not the person has had good habits and had a good, pattern of eating and nutrition and lifestyle. It's really the body's demands increase. And then the second point is, even for those of us that think we're generally pretty well nourished, there's large studies that have been done. For example, a 16,000 person study by the Journal of Nutrition that showed widespread systemic, societal level malnutrition in the population. So key micronutrients like vitamin D, the deficiency was somewhere around 93%, 94%. Vitamin, C, it was in the 90s. So what this study concluded, and what we're realizing more and more and more, is that while we're well fed, we eat a lot, we're undernourished. We're not getting the right nutrients in our bodies to support well-being. So that's sort of the conundrum, is that when we go into an injury state or a surgical state, our body's demands increase, but many of us are really pretty significantly undernourished on some of the key nutrients that we need to get good outcomes.
And I think those are all very, very valid points, because the times do change. I mean, you're going through a stressful time. It's a traumatic time. Surgery of any sort, whether it's something as basic as a knee scope. And I'm not trying to dumb down knee scopes, but people think, well, it's just it's no big deal. Your body mounts an immune response and mounts a stress response, and just as you said, the demand then goes up for certain micronutrients, macronutrients, and we're learning now that we can't just simply leave this to chance. I mean, you really don't want to, and especially in what I do in my field. I mean, with aesthetic medicine, not that you ever want any surgery to go bad, but if you're vesting and doing something electively, why in the world would you not, intake the best nutrition, get everything prepared most optimally, so that you have the best chance for outcome? I mean, it just makes good sense. Now, on that, I'll tell you, when I was writing my book, I got poo-pooed by a lot of people. I won't mention them right now, but they were some of my fellow peers and some of my friends as well too, that said, "Really, Buford, you think this nutrition thing is really that big a deal?" Well, what was amazing is, and I'll give you props here, is our mutual friend Jason Bloom, and shout out to Jason, awesome facial plastic surgeon back east, that said, "Hey, Buford, you wrote this book. You're looking at proper nutrition for your patients. There's this buddy of mine, Eziah, that has this company. You might want to talk to him about doing some kind of strategic alliance, what have you." That was 5 or 6 years ago, and I've never looked back, and I'm honored to be part of the team and to work with you guys. But I got a lot of poo-poos. Have you seen that along the way too?
Dr. Buford, when I first started to kind of socialize this, Amend is now deployed in leading hospital systems. When I first started to socialize this, this concept, I got general acknowledgement on the relationship between nutrition and healing. So it was almost universal that I would sort of talk about just what we've talked about, which is the body's demands are increased, the body needs the building blocks, et cetera. And I'd get nodding heads, but some sort of hesitancy in giving it a go. Fast forward to today, literally when we have conversations, we're hearing from leading hospitals and surgeons that we're behind in this area. We need to catch up. We know this is important because the science has become very established. For example, in the orthopedic side of the world, which is an area that we're very strong in, there have now been 140 plus RCTs, randomized placebo-controlled trials, that have been published on oral nutrition that shows really, really good outcomes. So it's irrefutable now. The body of evidence has become so strong that the surgeons are going to have a hard time ignoring it. And that's kind of the first thing we do, is we lead with the white papers to show that, hey, here's the data and the science, and that gets the acceptance, I think.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. I mean, you can't argue with the science. The science is right there. I mean, you've got leading hospitals like the Cleveland Clinic, which I'm proud to be. It's my alma mater. That's why I did my residency. And they're leading the way. And there's a lot of large health organizations. I know we're working with Hospital for Special Surgeries, correct, in New York City.
Yeah, our product was approved by their pharmacy committee. So we took the science in front of their 25-person P&T committee and showed all the data, and the science was approved there. We're standard of care at Geisinger in 3 different indications in spine, trauma, and total joint surgery. We're being utilized at Penn. So some very big reputable hospital systems that have recognized the science and have deployed our solutions.
I'm going to brag about you a little bit as well too. Can you tell the audience a little bit about the relationship down under, the Australian?
Yeah, and Hope, I think some of my Australian colleagues may actually be joining this. So we had a very prominent surgeon, Dr. Chip Alakamar, who's become a partner of ours, and Goran Petrovic, who's a leader in orthopedic sales down in that market, reached out to us because they heard about Mend at a seminar in India, actually, by another surgeon who was at that same seminar, who utilizes our products widely. And since that, introduction, just gosh, not even a year ago, it's absolutely exploded in the Australian market. Very long list of hospitals and clients across different sectors and segments that are utilizing. So that business just continues to grow.
Tell me a little bit, kind of shifting focus a little bit. Talk to me about the ingredients, because the question that I get asked from a lot of my patients, and just so you know as well, you know this, Eziah, but anybody watching this as well too. I put my money where my mouth is. I had my men shake this morning. I probably have it 5 or 6 days a week. Why? Because because does Eziah send me a bunch of free products? No, that's not why. It's because it's actually good quality stuff. I'm 55 and I don't want to put junk in my body. I want good stuff. But I also put my money where my mouth is when it comes to patients. Every single one of our surgical patients receives Men Cosmetic. And Men Cosmetic, for those of you who don't know the product lines, there's a variety of lines. Eziah talked a little bit about, the orthopedic area. Within the aesthetic space, there's what is called Men Cosmetic. And it's specially formulated for peri-surgical patients, not just post-operative, but peri-surgical. What I mean by that is we put our patients on it before, so they get optimized before, and then we keep it on it afterwards. And the exciting thing is we've had, I can't tell you how many patients that have come back and said, the only problem is my son loves the stuff, and so he stole all my product. My husband loves it. I'm totally out of it. Where can I get more of this stuff? And it's great. I mean, the feeling that we've actually started this movement. I wouldn't say we started it, but we're actually kind of pushing it along. And companies like Mend, are really at the forefront, because the other comment I get from patients, well, why can't I just go down to, my local GNC or Target and just get some protein powder? So, Eziah, how is Mend's products different than the standard off-the-shelf concoction, so to speak?
Yeah, we are really, there's a set of things. So first, we're really looking at what types of outcomes are we trying to drive with our portfolio of products. So for example, we have a product that is very focused on reducing blood sugar levels. It's a crisis in this country. By 2025, 50% of the U.S. population is going to be pre-diabetic or diabetic. Just absolutely staggering to think about. So for that, you want to look at the sort of the glucose pathways and what you're trying to do in terms of the endpoints that you're going to measure in terms of the outcome. So that is a very specific set of targeted nutrients that help to reduce blood sugar level. For the cosmetic surgery patient, we know that, generally they're looking to reduce and minimize bruising, reduce some of the swelling, get the best possible outcomes in terms of skin healing, boost the collagen. So we have a very comprehensive comprehensive set of nutrients in the formulation that address each one of those endpoints. So for example, it has collagen in it. So there's refined amino acids that provide some of the key building blocks for collagen formation. There's a whole complex of protein and amino acids, which help to trigger protein synthesis and help with the tissue building and tissue healing. That glutamine is a very key essential amino acid that becomes essential during something like trauma. So your body utilizes a lot of glutamine. So it has a very decent amount of glutamine in it. And then a very well-known nutrient that limits bruising, it has arnica. Arnica is a very well-utilized, well-known nutrient for that. The product also contains bromelain, which is a very, very potent anti-inflammatory that reduces some of the post-operative swelling. It's got a set of prebiotics in there that help with it's just the digestive process and improving the gut health. And then finally, some bioflavonoids that help with strengthening the blood vessel walls. So, you're not going to be able to find that if you go down and just grab a protein powder in your store. It's not going to have that specific mix of nutrients that are designed very specifically to address a set of endpoints and outcomes for the surgical patient.
Right. Yeah, I think those are all good points. I mean, it really comes down to it's not only the quality of ingredients, but also to the mixture of ingredients. You can, if you want, you can go down to Whole Foods, GNC, what have you, in any of your vitamin shops. pick up a lot of this stuff, but you can't get them in the right amounts. And swallowing down, 30 pills at a time is not very tasty. Being able to make a delicious men's shake, and I put up some of my suggestions. I don't know if you have some suggestions as well too, about how you drink it, but it's a good one thing that I talk about in my book is when you're doing this, Mend is chock full of great solid protein. You need a good carb as well too. So put in some good carbs. You need a good fat, and that's what a lot of people leave out of it. What's a good fat? I mean, literally, it may sound gross, but I put in a teaspoon of olive oil every day.
Mm-hmm.
And olive oil, I mean, good Lord. I mean, the Italians have been drinking olive oil, and the Croatians have been drinking it, for centuries. I mean, it's so healthy for you. It's a good fat. Other fats are like nut butters and so forth. And then, in terms of how you mix it, you can put in water if you're really trying to cut calories. You can put in a nut milk. You can put in soy milk if you want. You can put in normal milk. But it's really, I think it's kind of fun figuring out, how you can create these nice concoctions that not only are good for you, but they actually taste good. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest misconception. People are like, well, I'm a gym rat. I've swallowed down this gross protein every morning. Why in the hell would I want to come home and eat it for breakfast? Well, I'll tell you why, because you actually feel good. I mean, my staff, I know Anissa's on. Hi, Anissa. Thanks for tuning in. Anissa sees me almost every single morning drinking down, my greens. And I have, a powdered green that I put in there. I put in my oils and so forth. And it's a good way of starting the day,
And no question, Dr. Buford.
Right.
I'm like you. I put my money where my mouth is, and I don't go a day without, taking our set of products. There's a combination that I take every single day without fail. I take our daily inflammation product. I take our controlled glucose product because I have hereditary risk for blood sugar, and then I take our Regenerate shake, daily. Cosmetic is just a phenomenal product that one can take on a daily basis that really does. And there's the other thing I'll emphasize is sort of the quality of the sourcing of the nutrients as well as the manufacturing. So we are produced all in the U.S. from the highest quality labs that meet the highest standards in terms of where we're getting our nutrients, how it's manufactured, meet a very very high quality bar. So much so that our products are now widely followed by the U.S. military, professional sports team. 30 professional sports teams plus utilize our products. And of course, to get into hospital systems, you have to meet a very high bar and standard for quality as well. So we've been able to do that. So that's one of the other differentiators is just the focus on quality.
Talk a little bit. I want to go back a little bit. You mentioned the glucose control product because I think, that is such an important topic. We're talking about the surge in type 2 diabetics. We've got kids now that are morbidly obese and they're, even in their preteen years, which I think is shocking. I think, we all hate to say it, we're also worried about COVID and all these other things. I mean, we should be just as or more worried about what we're doing to our kids and, how we're increasing these numbers of diabetics, of obesity, because that's really the next wave. You talk to most practitioners, they'll tell you that that's really one of the most frightening things that's happening to the U.S. healthcare system, and really also too abroad as well too in various other countries, but is the rise in obesity and all the related issues with it. So talk a little bit about what the control product does and why that is important.
Yeah, I mean, it's nothing short of a crisis in our country, and I think part of the reason is just manufactured foods have so much hidden sugar in them that it's very difficult to avoid. So if you kind of look at it historically, in a very short period of time in human history, our diets have completely been changed. And we're more sedentary, and so a lot of the stuff that we consume just adds a lot of sugar. And so the numbers I've seen are as high as 80% of the U.S. population is dealing with high blood sugar. Like I said, 50% is going to be pre-diabetic or diabetic, and diabetes is not something you want to get. It's a very, very, very nasty disease. So we've been looking at some very, very established nutrients that have been shown historically that they can actually lower blood glucose levels, improve insulin sensitivity, et cetera. And we have just completed a randomized trial. So for those who don't know what that is, we give patients, randomly selected patients, our product, and we give other randomly selected patients a placebo to see what kind of impact the product actually has on the things that we're trying to measure. It's about to publish, and what we've shown is a reduction in blood glucose levels when in a fasting state, after a high carb meal, improved insulin sensitivity. What was really, really interesting about our research was that it also showed that patients actually had reduced sweet cravings as a result of taking the product
Mhm.
and more balanced energy. So that's the type of thing, it's a pill that you take, sort of daily. I take it daily. And even in the very first ingestion of the product, it shows a reduction in blood glucose levels. So it's a part of a healthy habit to take out take this product as a sort of an insurance on your health, because it's so difficult to avoid the sugars that are present in so many foods.
No, I totally agree. And it's, to add to that as well, too, there's a process called glycation. And glycation
Hmm.
is essentially when your cells they're so used to getting coated with high levels of sugar that it actually binds to them. And the glycation actually inactivates a lot of things. So, vessels get stiff, your red cells don't function as well. So, sugar, it's so funny. Sugar is like many things. I mean, it's a yin and yang. I mean, without sugar, you'd be dead. Okay. So you do need sugar. But the problem is, especially we as Americans, if a little bit's good, a lot must be so much better. Well,
Right.
that's not the case. And so modulating it, and having enough that we can function, enough that we can um, live in a healthy manner, that's good. But when too much takes over, it's deposited in various places, and that's really essentially what's been leading to a lot of disease states. We do have a question here from Australia, from our folks down there in men. Do you adjust your recommended cosmetic dosage based on the type of treatment or surgery that people are having? And that's a great question. To answer that question, we really haven't. We've actually just been having people take one shake a day, encourage them to take two shakes if they can. What's interesting is once people start on this program, we find that a lot of them are actually taking the two shakes. Why is that? Is it because it's super delicious? Yeah, part of it is that, but all jokes aside, it's also too that patients want to be part of the process.
Yeah.
And the sooner that people like me in the medical profession realize that, our patients want to be proactive and they want to actually do something that is going to help them heal better, we as practitioners are giving them that option. So, I see it. We have a number of my fellow peers, physicians and healthcare professionals that have joined us. I'll tell you what this has done for my practice. One, it makes me feel good. It makes me feel good from the sense that, I'm really leaving my patients off better than they were when they came in. I can't tell you how many people have, the joke about my son stole it or my husband stole it. I've got avid cheerleaders that come in and go, this stuff's on back order. Gentle nudge, Zed, don't ever let it go back on back order again. But they'll be like, I got to get this stuff. I love this stuff and it makes me feel good. So I like being able to pass that along. But I also, too, the other thing is, I want to make sure that I optimize everything for my patients. It's not good enough to say, well, I brought them to the OR, the surgery went successfully. There's other things. They're healing, they're preparing for the surgery. Think about it like this. If you're going to run, you're a runner, Zaya. You don't simply say, hey, I want to run the Boston Marathon. So I went to Runner's Roost and bought a pair of shoes and, I got my entry form and I'm just going to run tomorrow. No, you're going to preload, you're going to train. All these things are important for a race. Well, surgery, same thing. You've got to repair. And what's exciting to me is, since working with you and in your organization, I've seen a lot of change in terms of the mindset. I've seen a lot of articles come out, from various leaders in the field that are really showing the link between good nutrition and proper healing. So this is not some, fuddy-duddy, hippy-dippy thing. This is not some new age thing. This is, as you pointed out, this is the facts. There's science behind this. And the final thing I would say is, for those of you who have your medical practices, this is a differentiator. This is really a differentiator. I can't tell you how many people come in and say, Dr. B, we're so glad, we went to a couple other consults and they didn't even talk about nutrition. And, are we upcharging and making a ton of money on this? No, we're not. What this is doing selfishly is I'm trying to ensure that my results are better than all my competition. And I'm giving these patients an
We did a survey of 1,200 patients across different indications in surgery, and 92% indicated that they want nutrition to be a part of their healing regimen, and that they expect and hope that their physician would provide and recommend solutions. So, to your earlier point, consumers are way ahead of this. And I think the MDs are starting to increasingly get questions about, what more should I be doing? Should I be doing something nutritionally? And they're starting to recognize that, patients are ahead of this.
I totally agree. I think it's an exciting time to be in medicine because you've got patients that are, they're more proactive. They're engaged and they really want to be part of the solution. And the more that you can educate them by bringing this information to them about nutrition, but also too, not only about proper nutrition, but also the resources for it. I think that's one of the most challenging things. If you go on the internet and read about nutrition, it's like drinking through a fire hose. It's literally dizzying how much information is out there. You're trying to sort out this study, this study, this study. The reason I love working with your team is you've got it all together. I think you know this, I was actually planning to produce my own supplement. I was going to go down that route. And then when I talked to you, I was like, why waste my time? I mean, I don't need to reinvent the wheel. You've already got a great product. It's quality. You've got a great team. I haven't looked back. And you know what? I think, again, my patients really see this as a brand differentiator for my practice, and they really appreciate it. They really do.
Yeah, we've had a number of physicians that were also contemplating, kind of doing their own thing because the science is starting to mature and get established, but have decided to partner with us instead. In fact, the time, energy, effort required to just do something like this is is not insignificant. And in terms of the ability to differentiate the practice with with a product line that's established, is already there in terms of what we've built. So we continue to get that kind of feedback.
I agree. Well, we're getting up to the hour, and I like to make this short and sweet. We've had a great conversation. I mean, if you guys have any questions, you can certainly send them to me. You can send them to Eziah. I think this is a very, very exciting move in medicine. I've been doing this private practice thing for about 20 years, and really, really seeing the rise of surgical nutrition. And like I say, it's exciting for me because I think that ultimately it's going to pay off for not only for the patients, but also for the practices with improved outcomes. So that being said, Eziah, what do you see, putting out your crystal ball and kind of leaving us with the thoughts of the future? Where do you see men nutrition heading in the next couple of years? What's the next big horizon?
Yeah, look, we're really focused on sort of the big societal level health challenges, and we think there's a very important role for evidence-based nutrition, targeted nutrition to play in that. So we talked about blood glucose, obviously cardiovascular health, and then all the risks related to heart disease. Inflammation is another key area that we're looking at targeting. And so we're really trying to develop a portfolio of evidence-based solutions that can be utilized by healthcare practitioners to really make this mainstream. So this is a big food as medicine movement. A lot of the big investors, the VCs, the private equity firms are really looking at this space as an opportunity to move the needle on societal health. And we hope to be an important player in that entire movement.
I love it. I love it. So for everyone watching, tell us a little bit about how they can get a hold of you, and tell them about your website, how they can get more information.
Yeah, so our website is mend.me. You can always feel free to reach me directly. It's Eziah, Eziah at mend.me. You can ping us on this Instagram page, Men Nutrition, a variety of different ways you can get in touch with us, and I'd be happy to talk to you directly.
Perfect. And then for those of you who want to reach out to me, it's just beautybybuford.com or Beauty by Buford Instagram handle. You can also email me directly at drbuford@beautybybuford.com. So, and it says, is there a link where you can buy straight from you, Dr. Buford? There actually is. If you go on, I believe it's on my website, beautybybuford.com, under the About Us menu drop down, look under resources, and underneath there it'll say nutrition, and there's a direct link that you can order all these products. One thing that I'm going to say, leaving here as well too, is I'm a plastic surgeon, obviously, and so I don't do orthopedic surgery. But think about how many orthopedic cases are going on every day, literally every day. My mom just had a knee scope. Okay, I've had several other friends that have had surgical procedures as well too. recently that were orthopedic in nature. If you know someone that is having a procedure like this, send them to the website. I mean, what's it going to hurt? So you spend a couple bucks. It's a lot more. I always tell my patients that the way the nutrition is that you either spend the money on the front end, or you spend the money on the back end. You
Right.
spend money on the front end and you eat well. Yeah, it costs a little bit more instead of eating junk. But guess what? You actually have a healthy life. You can enjoy it because you have that vitality versus spending it on the back end where you're spending it on treating disease. So I'll leave you with that. Again,
Awesome.
Zed, it's been wonderful. It's always a pleasure chatting with you. Any parting words?
Well, no, I just want to thank you for the time and thank your audience for tuning in. This is an important area that we all I think need to get behind and support because nutrition is so vital for our health and vitality. So, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Hope to
Thank you.
see you again at the next IG Live, and have a good evening.